Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more notable names in Jewish American history. Today, we are looking at Hank Greenberg. He was the first baseman for the Detroit Tigers way back in 1930 30 something. I can't remember exact year. But anyway, yeah. Um, he even spent 4 years fighting in World War II during his peak years of play, and then lost another year with a fractured wrist. He still hit 331 home runs, played 1,394 games. This is from baseballhall.org, Hall of Famers. He was one of the truly great hitters, and when I first saw him at bat, he made my eyes pop out. That was from Joe DiMaggio. Henry Benjamin Greenberg, born on January 1st, 1911, in New York City, New York, had a stellar amateur career and then was offered a contract with his own hometown Yankees, but instead opted to join Detroit and would win 2 American League Most Valuable Player awards in his career with Detroit. The first came in 1935 when playing first base. He hit 320 hit a 328 and led the league in both home runs with 36 and RBIs with 168. So yeah, 35. Remember, this is home runs weren't always flying out aplenty, but you had some decent sluggers. Greenberg was one of them. His Tigers would win the World Series that year, though he missed the majority of the Fall Classic after breaking his wrist in the second game. He earned his second MVP in 1940 as an outfielder, and where he batted a 340 and again paced the American League in homers with 41 while driving in the most runs with 150. Stats that would be great in modern day baseball. This would be the first time in MLB history that a player won an MVP award at 2 different positions. Yeah, so not only could play first base, could play outfielder. War spreading across the globe in the 1940s would cut a significant portion of Greenberg's playing career. But Greenberg was initially brought into military service in May 1941, only to be honorably discharged in December 5th of that year, a mere 2 days before the attacks of Pearl Harbor. Greenberg would immediately re-enlist, and in June 1945, his military service concluded, and Greenberg jumped right back into baseball. Even though he'd been away from the game for more than 4 years, Greenberg's skills hadn't waned. His return to the latter half of the 1945 season helped drive the Tigers to another World Series appearance. That fall classic performance was spectacular as he drove in 7 runs in 7 games while hitting 304, giving the Tigers the victory over the Chicago Cubs. In 1946, Greenberg once again led the league in home runs with 44 and RBIs with 127, and in that it would be his final year as a member of the Detroit Tigers, though the Pittsburgh Pirates would purchase his contract before the 1947 season. He would only play 1 year with the Pirates before retiring to take over direction of the Indians farm system. Greenberg would shortly become their general manager and later serve the White Sox in the same capacity. He would be elected in the Hall of Fame in 1956 and pass away September 4th, 1986. He would, inducted in 1956. New York, 1911 is when he's born. Died 1986, Beverly Hills, California. Team he played most of his career with was Detroit, and his main position he played was first baseman, was a right-handed batter, threw right-handed, played with the Tigers in 1930, 1933 to 1941, 1945 to 46, and then 1 year with Pittsburgh. So yeah, he gets 1 year in Detroit, misses a few years, then plays the biggest span of his career, 33 to 41, re-enlists into the military to help fight in World War II, and comes back in the second half of 45 and plays 46 before Pittsburgh buys his contract and he plays with them in 47. So yeah, who knows how great he really could be if he'd had the full time to play that most major leaguers would have. 1,394 games, 5,193 at-bats, 1,628 hits, 552 walks, 1,046 runs, 379 doubles, 71 triples, 331 home runs, 1,274 RBIs, even had 58 stolen bases, had a career batting average of .313. So for that era, he was a slugger and a great hitter. On base plus slugging 1.017, on base percentage .412, slugging .605. Greenberg stories. Okay, so yeah. Hank Greenberg. Now let's see what Britannica says. Born January 1st, 1911 in the Bronx, New York, and died September 4th, 1986 in Beverly Hills, California. American baseball player who was one of the game's best hitters and won 2 American League MVP awards, 1935, 1940, and became the sport's first Jewish superstar. After a standout high school baseball career, he was offered a contract by the Yankees, but was put off by the prospect of having to oust the team's then first baseman, the legendary superstar Lou Gehrig. So he declined the offer and studied for a year at New York University before signing with the Tigers in 1929. Talk about respect for a player. If you so respect them that you do not want to take their spot. And he's like, I'll play in another team. That is respect. The lanky 6'4" Greenberg appeared in just one game for the Tigers in 1930 before being sent to the minors for seasoning. He played his first full major league season in 1933, and he quickly established himself as one of baseball's premier power hitters. Playing in Detroit, which was the time of notoriously anti-Semitic Henry Ford, who big name in Detroit because head of Ford Motor, and the Reverend Charles E. Coughlin, Greenberg initially dealt with a largely hostile crowd at his home games as well as on the road. Additionally, he often encountered prejudice on the field from opposing players and managers. His stellar play and off-field graciousness probably best exemplified by his well-publicized refusal to play on Yom Kippur during the 1934 pennant race eventually won him the respect and praise of the baseball world. He helped the Tigers win their first World Series title in 1935, earning the AL MVP award in the process. In 1938, he hit 58 home runs, too short of Babe Ruth's then record. And in 1940, he led the league again in home runs, runs batted in, and doubles, while registering an average of 340, to again be named MVP. So yeah, just unsung when you think of all the greats, because he just unfortunately gets overshadowed by the gigantic names. Greenberg missed 3 full seasons and parts of 2 more while serving in the military in World War II. After his return to the Tigers in 1945, he hit a dramatic 9th-inning grand slam in the last game of the season to clinch the AL pennant for Detroit, which then went on to win its second World Series title. Greenberg was traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1947 and retired in 1948. He was part owner and general manager of the Cleveland Indians from 1950 to 57, and held the same position for the Chicago White Sox 1959 to 1961. He left baseball at the end of his stint with the White Sox and embarked on a successful career as an investor in Wall Street. He would be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York in 1956. There actually is a documentary film that recounts all of this in The Life and Times of Hank Greenberg from 1999. So yeah. Let's see what else we can pull from Wikipedia here. He earned the nickname the Hebrew Hammer. Altogether career highlights: 5 All-Star games, 2 World Series championships, 2 AL MVPs, was the AL home run leader 4 times, AL RBI leader 4 times, and the Detroit Tigers retired his number 5. He got into the Hall of Fame with a 85% vote on the ninth ballot. Served in the U.S. Army, U.S. Army Air Forces. Was part of XX Bomber Command. But yeah, nicknamed Hammer and Hank, Hankus Pankus, and the Hebrew Hammer. He was AL home run leader 4 times, and his 58 home runs for the Tigers in 1938 equaled Jimmy Foxx's 1932 mark for the most in one season by anyone other than Babe Ruth, and tied Fox for the most home runs between Ruth's record 60 in 1927 and Roger Maris's record 61 in 1961. Greenberg was the first major league player to hit 25 or more home runs in a season in each league, and remains the AL record holder for the most runs batted in a single season by a right-handed batter. Considered the first Jewish superstar in American team sports, period. Any team sport. Which the NFL was in its infancy, and I'm not sure. I think the NBA would be a little later. I'm not sure about the NHL, but yeah. He endured his share of anti-Semitic abuse in his career, and was one of the few opposing players to publicly welcome Jackie Robinson to the major leagues in 1947. So yeah, he's like, man, I understand what this racist bullshit feels like. He was born to Romanian Jewish immigrant parents from Bucharest, Sarah and David Greenberg. He was the third of 4 children, with 2 brothers, Ben and Joe, and a sister, Lillian. His parents had originally wanted to name him Hyman. However, the name on his birth certificate was erroneously listed as Henry. So his parents wanted him named Hyman Greenberg, but birth certificate said, "You're Henry Greenberg." Family owned a successful cloth shrinking plant in New York. Even though he preferred baseball, his best sport actually was basketball, and helped his high school basketball team win the city championship. Also excelled at soccer and track and field. Was recruited by the Yankees at 18 years of age, but because they had Lou Gehrig and Greenberg was like, "Hey, I can't take a spot." He turned down the Yankees' offer and instead attended New York University on an athletic scholarship. There, he was a member of Sigma Alpha Mu. During this time, he also had a tryout with the New York Giants, later the San Francisco Giants. This was before they moved, though. And Giants manager John McGraw, however, was not impressed by him. Thus, after his freshman year ended, he would sign with the Detroit Tigers. He would play minor league baseball for 3 years and played 17 games for the Hartford Senators before playing the remainder of the year with the Raleigh Capitals, hitting .314 and 19 home runs. 1931, he played for the Evansville Hubs, hitting .318 with 15 home runs and 85 RBIs. And in 1932, he played for the Beaumont Exporters, hitting 39 homers and 131 RBIs, winning the MVP award and leading Beaumont to the Texas League title. And of course, at that point, it's like, yeah, he's kind of exploded with how good he is. September 14th, 1930, he made his major league debut as a pinch hitter against the Yankees. It was the only game he appeared in that year, but as a result, made him the youngest player at 19 years to appear in the major leagues in 1930. Of course, that's when they sent him to the minor leagues. And he would, in 1933, once again a part of the Tigers, hit .301 with 87 RBIs, though at the same time he was third in the league in strikeouts, 78. 1934, second season, hit .339 and helped the Tigers reach their first World Series in 25 years. Led the league in doubles, fourth highest all time in a single season, and extra base hits. Additionally, he was third in the AL in slugging percentage behind Jimmy Foxx and Lou Gehrig, but ahead of Babe Ruth. And in RBIs, sixth in batting average, seventh in home runs, and ninth in on-base percentage. So yeah, you can see he's already making tremendous headway. There's a picture of him with heavyweight boxer Joe Louis in 1935. Late in 1934, he announced he would not play on September the 10th, which was Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, or on September 19th, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Detroit fans grumbled at the decision, however, with one reportedly saying Rosh Hashanah comes every year, but the Tigers haven't won the pennant since 1909. As a result, Greenberg did considerable soul searching and discussed the matter with his rabbi and his father, and finally he relented and agreed to play on Rosh Hashanah, but stuck with his decision not to play on Yom Kippur. He would hit 2 home runs in a 2-1 Tigers victory over the Red Sox on Rosh Hashanah. The next day, Detroit Free Press ran a Hebrew lettering for Happy New Year across its front page. It's amazing how much racism can be quashed when it's like suddenly someone they like and appreciate. Columnist and poet Edgar A. Guest expressed the general opinion in a poem titled Came Yom Kippur, speaking of Greenberg, in which he used the Irish and thus Catholic names Murphy and Mulroney. The poem, published in the Detroit Free Press, ends with the lines, "We shall miss him on the infield and shall miss him at the bat, but he's true to his religion and I honor him for that." Detroit press was not so kind regarding the Yom Kippur decision, nor were many fans, but Greenberg in his autobiography recalled that he received a standing ovation from congregates at Congregation Sha'arei Zedek when he arrived. With Greenberg absent from the lineup, the Tigers lost to the Yankees 5-2. They went on to face the St. Louis Cardinals in the 1934 World Series, losing in 7 games against the Gas House Gang, which was either the name of the full St. Louis Cardinals or the name of their pitching staff. I'm not sure who the actual Gas House Gang is when it comes to baseball, but yeah. 1935, Greenberg led the league in RBIs, total bases, and extra base hits. Tied Jimmy Fox for the AL title in home runs, and second in the league in doubles, slugging percentage, and third in the league in triples and in runs scored. Sixth in on-base percentage and walks, and seventh in batting average. He was unanimously voted as the most valuable player in the AL, and by the All-Star break that season had hit 25 home runs and set an MLB record, still standing 103 RBIs, but was not selected to the AL All-Star roster. One reason was the AL manager, Mickey Cochran, had put himself on the All-Star roster despite not playing in the game. Wow. So he probably should have had another year. He had 5 appearances in the All-Star game. Probably should have had 6. Goodness. That season, Greenberg led the Tigers to another pennant. However, during Game 2, he sprained his wrist and was sidelined for the remainder of the series, as the Tigers would go on to win their first ever World Series title. 1936, he re-injured his wrist and did not play the remainder of the season. 1937, he recovered from his injury and was voted AL All-Star roster, but did not play. And September 19th of that year, he hit the first home run into the center field bleachers at Yankee Stadium. He led the AL by driving in 184 runs, third all-time behind Hank Wilson and Lou Gehrig. And in extra base hits, while batting .337 with 200 hits. He was second in the league in home runs, doubles, total bases, slugging percentage, and walks. Third in on-base percentage, and 7th in batting average. He came in third in the vote for MVP behind Charlie Gehringer and Joe DiMaggio. So yeah, great player, just overshadowed by some of the bigger names. in the sport. Okay, talk a lot about his playing years. When he was a manager, World War II service, he was initially classified as an F4 for flat feet after his first physical for military service and was recommended for light duty. The rumors that he had bribed the board had and concern that he would be likened to Jack Dempsey, who had received negative publicity for failure to serve in World War I, led Greenberg to request to be re-examined. He was found fit for regular military service and reclassified. He was inducted on May 7th, 1941, and reported to Fort Custer in Battle Creek, Michigan. In November, while serving as an anti-tank gunner, he was promoted to sergeant, but was honorably discharged on December the 4th. The Congress usually released men aged 28 and older from service 2 days. U.S. Congress released men usually aged 28 and older from service. So he had kind of hit that age limit, but it was only 2 days before the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So yeah, Greenberg would actually re-enlist as a sergeant and volunteered for the Army Air Forces, becoming the first major league player to do so. In 1944, he was sent to the U.S. Army Special Services School and promoted to captain, requesting overseas duty later that year and serving in the China, Burma, India theater for over 6 months, scouting locations for B-29 bomber bases, and was a physical training officer with the 58th Bomber Wing. He was a Special Services officer of the 20th Bomber Command, 20th Air Force. He would eventually be ordered to New York and then in late 1944 to Richmond, Virginia, and would end up having served 47 months, the longest of any major league player. So yeah, he would be placed on the military inactive list and discharged from the U.S. Army on June 14, 1945. Team owner Bing Crosby recorded a song, "Goodbye, Mr. Ball, Goodbye," with Groucho Marx and Greenberg to celebrate Greenberg's arrival in Pittsburgh. The Pirates also reduced the size of Forbes Field It's left field in that field, renaming the section Greenberg Gardens to help accommodate Greenberg's pull hitting style. So I guess they wanted to see him hit a number of home runs over there. He played first base for Pittsburgh in '47, and his time there coincided with the arrival of Jackie Robinson in the major leagues. He was one of the few opposing players to publicly welcome Robinson to the majors at a time when most opposing players were openly hostile. So yeah, during a game against the Brooklyn Dodgers, he collided with Robinson while covering first base. Afterwards, Greenberg asked if Robinson was alright and encouraged him to stick in there. "You're doing fine. Keep your chin up." Robinson later praised Greenberg, saying, "Class tells. It sticks out all over you, Mr. Greenberg." Or it sticks out all over Mr. Greenberg. He had a chance to mentor future Hall of Famer Ralph Kiner. Let's see. No player had ever retired after a final season in which they hit so many home runs. Since then, only Ted Williams with 29, Dave Kingman with 35, Mark McGwire with 29, Barry Bonds with 28, and David Ortiz with 38 have hit as many or more homers in their final season. So yeah. In 1949, Larry Doby also recommended Greenberg scout 3 players Doby used to play with in the Negro Leagues: Hank Aaron, Ernie Banks, and Willie Mays. Next offseason, Doby asked what Indian scouts said about his recommendation, and Greenberg replied, "Our guys checked them out and their reports were not good. They said that Aaron has a hitch in his swing and will never hit good pitching. Banks is too slow and didn't have enough range at shortstop, and Mays can't hit a curveball." Ellis Ryan. Okay. So while Ellis Ryan had initially been content to leave baseball matters to Greenberg, he tried to seize greater control after the 1952 season, when the Indians suffered a drop in attendance despite coming within 2 games of the pennant. Indians board sided with Greenberg, prompting Ryan to sell out to a group headed by Myron H. Wilson, who voiced full confidence in Greenberg. Under Wilson, Greenberg's role as operating head of the franchise was cemented to a point that he represented the Indians at owners' meetings alongside Vice President and board member George Mettinger. During this time, he and Pirates owner John W. Galbraith helped negotiate an amended player pension plan in which the players got 60% of television revenues from the All-Star game and World Series. 1953 was partly responsible for an important change in baseball's waivers rule. Previous seasons, once a player passed through waivers in his team's league, any team from the other league could acquire him, a detail the Yankees used to often outbid other AL teams for NL players. Greenberg successfully campaigned for a new rule that, after June 15th, required players to pass through waivers in both leagues before teams in the other league could attempt to obtain them. So, yeah. Greenberg's influence grew even more in 1956 when he joined a syndicate headed by Bill Daley that bought the Indians from Wilson. Though Greenberg had been the operating head of the franchise since 1950, this was the first time he had been a part owner. However, in 1957, he was forced to resign as GM, and as he put it, in order to satisfy a hostile press. He remained a part owner, however, and in 1958 tried to buy out Daley and become principal owner. He intended to serve as his own general manager if successful. However, Daley and several other directors bought him out. So that ended his career as manager and GM and everything for the Cleveland Indians. He would serve as head of Chicago White Sox as a coach for a few seasons. Grew up in an Orthodox Jewish household, but was not an observant Jew, and later raised his children in a secular household. Married Carl Gimbel, daughter of Bernard Gimbel of the Gimbel's department store family. Marriage was not a happy one, though, and they would have a divorce in 1958. In 1966, Greenberg would marry actress Mary Jo Tarola, who appeared on screen under the stage name Linda Douglas, and remained with her until his death. 3 children from the first marriage, Glenn, Stephen, and Alba, played baseball at Yale University and spent 5 years in the Washington Senators Texas Rangers organization. Stephen did. So his son Stephen actually was alright in baseball. Stephen later became the baseball executive and sports agent. Alva became a newspaper editor for the Old Lyme Gazette in Old Lyme, Connecticut. Later in life, Greenberg became an avid tennis player, but he would die of metastatic kidney cancer in Beverly Hills, California, September 4th, 1986, and would be entombed at Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery in Culver City, California. In 1983, the Tigers retired his number 5. He was elected to the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame in 1958. Elected to the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame in 1979 and the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame in 1995. 2013, the Bob Feller Act of Valor awarded him as one of the 37 Baseball Hall of Fame members for his service in the U.S. Army Air Force during World War II. He had featured on a postage stamp in 2006. Among other sluggers, Mickey Mantle, Mel Ott, and Roy Campanella. In 2024, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a House resolution which recognized contributions of Jewish Americans in the wake of rising anti-Semitism. Greenberg, along with Koufax, were one of a handful of people who were singled out in the resolution by name. So yeah, Hank Greenberg. Pretty interesting. But we're going to go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing. Ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.